And we're back.
Welcome to No Direction Beyond, your source for Starfinder news, reviews, and interviews. I'm Alexander Agunis, No Direction's Everyman Gamer, and I'm joined, as always, by the two most intrepid Starfinders this side of the galaxy, Vanessa Hoskins and James Bowden. I just totally stole their thunder. I'm so
You
sorry.
did. My thunder is stolen. You know, but I knew.
I used the right code switch.
I knew you were going to. Oh, God.
Well, that's the problem. I told our listeners because they already knew what you were going to say. I've seen into the future. It's a doomed future.
It's not like that's what we say at the beginning of every episode and we introduce ourselves. And you're like, I bet they're going to say their names.
Well, but isn't that the beauty of it? I subtly changed all the words that I chose for this episode. Because I've seen the future and I know exactly what to do this time. Through some cosmic event, I've come to understand the ebb and flow of time to agree that only a select few can.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of power to gain like a month.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen, you missed a really great episode. And then V and I had to do an emergency super double episode. We gained we gained a full level of experience. I am unstoppable now.
Oh,
so much.
Sad I missed out.
That's okay. That means that you have to fight a higher level threat, which means you'll level up faster. That's at least how it's supposed to work. So let's talk about this week's higher level threat, which is Starfinder's newest class. We are talking the Precog today, which we had Thurston Hillman on to pitch this class to us forever ago, right?
Yes, forever ago.
Yeah.
Months.
Thurston is great, and also he heard we were doing this and was like, please don't destroy my baby. And we were like, we're going to destroy all the babies.
Oh no, we're going to destroy it, certainly.
So that's the point.
I mean, a breakdown is literally to give the class itself a breakdown, an existential crisis. Not a person, not just Thurston. We're going to break the class down.
Exactly. If we don't break the class down, were we really trying?
Oh, no.
Well,
wow,
I think
we're terrible people.
Yeah, we really are. But why don't we give everybody what they want, which is an absolute breakdown of this class. To start, the Precog is a spellcasting class, and it's actually something we haven't seen in a while. It uses the really low Witch Warper and Technomancer progression. So It's got 5 hit points, 5 stamina points, 6 plus intelligence skill points at first level.
Tons of skill points, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got a pretty good array. It's got acrobatics, bluff, culture, diplomacy, mysticism, perception, piloting, profession, sense motive, and stealth. All a very good combo.
Yes.
I think the first place where this class becomes weird is with its key ability score. Would you two agree?
Oh yeah, its key ability is Dex as a caster. And you might think, well, maybe it doesn't affect its spells, but guess what? It sure does.
Well, that's the thing. In the playtest, it was a Dex caster, and now in the final book, it's an intelligence caster.
I thought it was Dex. I swear it says Dex. No, you know what threw me off?
It's both.
What?
It's both. Yeah.
So its key score is Dex, and Dex is used for everything the class gets except for its spellcasting, which is intelligence based. Apparently, that was a big selling point in the playtest. I'm sorry. I'm going to be real mean and say cowards. Cowards.
Well, no. I agree with it. No, I think it would be way cooler if Dex was there, but I agree with this choice. The reason I got thrown off is because there's a sentence that says, unlike your spells per day, the number of spells you know isn't affected by your Dex modifier. And as I skimmed it, I forgot about the intelligence part. I was sort of trying to just refresh my brain before things. That's how we do here. We cram just like in school. And as I was going through, I saw that and I was like, oh, did they keep Dex? Because I thought they didn't. But you're right. I see intelligence modifier for DCs. Here's the thing. Dex is already the everything stat. It's always been in D20 systems, and it's something that they just keep trying to pull away from. But being fast is so much better than being good. If you're strong, fine. The fast person will just dodge you and then punch you in the kidneys or something. If you're smart, that's great. But if they're so fast they're on top of you before you can get a plan together, it doesn't matter. If you're wise and you're not even there around the fast person, good job. You already lost by running away. I mean, there's just there's nothing that fast can't beat. It affects so many different things. It affects your to hit with guns, which is the way that they intended Starfinder to be run. But it can also affect melee weapons if they're operative.
Intended. Unless you go to the Philly Lodge where everybody is a martial character with a 16 strength. Those Dashkos, it turns out that Dex turns into jelly and a Deco crit.
I don't know about that. I am a forever dex builder, and every single time I've tried to build like a strength-based melee character or like something, I always end up with a dex character. Always. That's
a lack of vision. You know, you got it. You can get around there.
Wow.
I don't see how this can work. I just got to give it more dex. It's a lack of vision. You got to expand your horizons and be willing to get beaten up so that you can beat up other people.
Right. And you know what else is really good at expanding horizons?
Witch warpers.
Yeah, they are, but so is the precog. One of the things get. One of the things they get. I
knew that was an ill-advised segue. That just sounded like an ill-advised segue.
No, listen, that's 90% of this class. Everything is ill-advised. For example, at first level, you get to pick whether you get advanced melee weapon proficiency, long arm proficiency, or sniper rifle proficiency for free. And because you get that from your class, you get weapon specialization with it at third level too. So like if you want to be a spellcaster and spell snipe people, go for it. I'm sure it'll be great. Really great.
Wow.
So I mean, before we get too put off track through us talking all about how Vanessa can't build a strength character.
Hey, I wasn't even done ranting, so whatever. I still had 5 minutes left in that rant.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? Normally I'm all about filling space with time, but we've got a time class here and not enough space for all of its content. So let's get going.
Wow.
I'm really good today.
That was actually really good. Okay, you get a point for that one. That was nice.
Oh my gosh, I wish this was second edition because the hero points might matter. So if we go to the class, this is another spellcasting class that like wants you to remember that Starfinder breaks molds because it has a good reflex save instead of a good will save, just like the Witch Warper does, which is fun. You get spells at the same progression as every other caster in Starfinder, so nothing's new or special or different there.
Real quick, one thing that worries me, because you mentioned the saves, and like they're a spellcasting class and they don't have a good will save and they don't have a good fort save, and you're like, well, I'm dex-based, so I'm more likely to shoot people, and I have intelligence based for my spells, so if I want to be spelly, I'm going to have intelligence, which doesn't affect any saves. And it seems like you're very likely to have a terrible fort save, an amazing reflex save, and a terrible will save, which is just like, I don't know. I'm okay having like one bad save, and you're like, ooh, I just want to get poisoned. Fortitude's my bad one or something, you know? Like usually for me it's will, because I always dump wisdom, because it's more fun. But like there's like nothing to save you, and so your one good save also happens to be your key ability score, and so it's just so topsy-turvy.
That's the true secret of Starfinder. Spells you don't, as spellcasters, you don't cast spells at like marshals or at skill characters. You cast them at other spellcasters. They're the only ones with saves low enough to fail.
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and look at some of the really cool class features that they get. Or should we talk about the spell list? Because both of those are things I'm really excited to talk about. The spell list is probably the biggest thing that's improved with this class since the playtest.
All right, you tell me. How is it the biggest thing to improve?
What the difference was?
So basically when a playtest class comes out, the only spells it gets are like ones that already exist, except for maybe like 2 or 3 additional spells. So like in the playtest, there was like Death's Door exists. There were a couple cantrips like Injury Echo, and the 20th level version of Wish essentially were like the only real spells that were in that book. But the Galactic Magic has so many new spells, and some of them are amazing and some of them are hot garbage, but there's more that are amazing than that are hot garbage. One really good example is that like this class has a theme of getting other class list spells, but with a weird twist, is kind of the best way to describe the precog. So like as an example, you get a spell called Death's Door, right?
Right.
Death's Door is essentially Mind Thrust, except instead of being a will save, it's a fortitude save, and it does less damage. And it does about half damage at every level compared to a Mind Thrust. But in addition to doing damage, it does strength and dex damage to the target if they fail their saving throw. So you just debuff people and then also smack them. And it's very fun. It's one of my favorite parts about this class is literally the Death's Door spell. But just because you can make people really old and almost die, you also have Blessing of Youth, which is a new spell that precogs get that is a amazing spell that heals stamina points and gives you a speed boost because you're super young and vibrant like a giddy child and are zooming all over the place.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the best part is that both spells are variable level. They go from level 1 to 6, so that it can literally be your cornerstone forever. It's great. Like, I think that magic that replenished stamina points was something that was missing from the game, and they kind of like they kind of gave it to the biohacker, but like it was a really terrible version of it where you could only do it once per rest, and it was like nothing. And then like they had the medic archetype, which is really good, but the medic is in this weird place where the medic can't heal stamina points unless it heals at least 1 hit point of damage. So like it wasn't very reliable unless you're Dustin Knight and carry around needles and just acupuncture people until you can use that ability on them. You laugh. Dustin absolutely does that in Teenage Wasteland.
Oh my god!
He runs around with needles and he pokes them for 1 damage until they're 1 damage below their maximum hit points, and then his Doctor Archetype ability activates. It's really funny.
Oh, that's so silly.
Oh, it's super silly.
Oh my god, that's like like you need a pre-existing condition for like medical approval. Not hurt quite enough for this procedure.
No, I'm sorry, ma'am. You're not hurt enough. Hold on, I'm just gonna poke you with this needle. Nope, still not hurt enough.
Would you like to qualify?
I know it hurts. Just hold still. It'll only take about 4d7 more rounds. Just like a d7 doesn't exist. That's why it's funny. All right. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So overall, the spells are really cool. If there's one thing I'll say is that the precog list does not have a very large number of spells that only the precog gets. And I think that the longer that Starfinder has existed, the more that has become true, because I feel like people and designers have realized that having a spell that only one person gets is really not great for balance. Like because you generally don't want to sit down and say, all right, if you want to handle this problem, you need this class. Like you want to give people some choices. And Starfinder also has the problem of not having streamlined spell lists. So like, all right, I guess we're doing another spell list. How are we going to make this one different? And so like you definitely have this problem with a lot. There's a ton of brand new spells. A lot of them are very cool. But most of them, most precog spells are also Witch Warper spells, and many of them are also Mystic spells. The one class that the precog doesn't share with much is Technomancer, kind of like how Witch Warper shares with precog and Technomancer more than Mystic. But overall, it's not really a problem with the class. It's just like a design decision that you should be aware of when you're playing this. If you're gonna pick this class for unique spells, Death's Door and Blessing of Youth are like the 2 big ones.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Also, they by not giving it Junk Sword, it makes me sad.
I know,
it's
Junk
fine.
Sword.
Not everything needs to be Junk Sword, James.
So,
but it would be so good with Junk Sword.
James, can I tell you a secret that's gonna make you really happy?
Oh no!
You can go and there's a module called Junker's Delight, and there is an archetype in Junker's Delight called the Junkomancer that gives any spellcaster Junk Sword.
Oh my god!
You could be all powerful. You know what the best part is? Another thing that archetype gives is the ability to swift action cast Fabricate Scrapped. So you could cast that spell as a swift action, automatically have scrap, and then turn that scrap into a junk sword all in the same action. So you could junk sword in the middle of a jungle and nobody can stop you.
Oh my. Okay.
No.
Yeah. So if your build is going to be a precog Junkomancer, you could do it. There's nothing stopping you.
Oh, that's what I want now.
Okay. What
I was just thinking, why does this have Junk Sword? Now I have to think of what I need to do.
Oh no.
No, listen, that's because the ability to make magic into a melee weapon and hit people with it is iconic and amazing. Everyone loves it. But there are other things you can do with magic. Like you have an anchor as this class, which is not really magical. So I lied to you.
It keeps you from drifting down a body of water.
That's true. But in the case of your anchor is kind of like the aspect of time that you have gotten your powers from. Like what weird thing has happened in time. My favorite anchor is personally Doomed Future, because the plot you can have from saying that you are from basically the worst possible timeline and you're here to save everyone, like Terminator style, is so much fun.
It's so good. I actually love that one from a GM standpoint. Like it's fun from a player standpoint, but from a GM standpoint, if you've ever had, and the answer is yes, if you've ever GM'd a game, that situation where all the players are sitting around the table trying to figure out what to do, and they're missing like this one giant blinking lights obvious clue, and you're sitting there like, obviously you go to location C. Like that's where to go. That's where I just gave you 3 clues that point you there, and everyone's like, I don't know. We think it's A. No, you think it's B. I don't. We could go to the. And you're like, just oh my god. So with this, you can tell that player. I don't know if you want to DM them or send them a text message or slip them a paper, but that says you remember that you were at location C at one point, and they're like, oh, I was there at once. That must be where we're supposed to go. That's where we can change time. And it just gets your table on track. Or that's where it went wrong. But it's like, that's where we can like get this back on track. And like, ugh.
In Teenage Wasteland, the NPC that I have that I play tested the precog with, and he's still a precog, is basically based on Subaru, where he is from he basically keeps coming like back to life off screen, like where every time they have a choice, I think about what would have happened to make the players have a total party kill, and that he has that information about what total party killed them. It's very fun.
That's cool.
It does lead into some situations where there's lots of paradoxes, though, which is great because this class is wonderful at paradoxes.
Yeah. I just want to look over the anchors for just a second.
Please.
A lot of them are very good story-wise, and they might have good niche effects. A lot of them have things that you're just not going to use.
For example?
Dimension of Time, improved anchor. You stop an object, a mundane object, from the ravages of time. It can't be technological. You make a banana, never brought. Amazing.
It's true.
It's so cool.
It's definitely a power that like is of questionable use. Like I think that and that's like if I have a criticism of the precog, it's that it's super flavorful, but sometimes to its own detriment. Like,
okay, but can you do that to a grenade someone throws? Someone throws a grenade and you're like, no, it's not going to go off. And it's like, what? It's like the timer is just stuck at 2 seconds forever.
I think it's a standard action to do.
Because it's not technological, right? You said not technological items?
Yeah, no, but it's once a day you touch an item, and it's protected from the ravages of time. It protects things from going bad.
That's funny.
I guess if you had that and you let the grenade sit in mud for 30 years and then gave it to somebody to throw you and then dismissed it as they had it in their hand, maybe? But that's like the longest, most petty ploy I've ever heard.
Definitely.
I suppose from the mundane effects of the passage of time, I'd say a timer going down is a mundane effect of the passage of time.
I guess, but you'd have to touch it.
Sure. So someone throws a grenade and you're like, boop.
I guess you can ready to do that, and then whatever you had before is not it starts passing time. You just
again. Walk, like usually there's a delay, so you walk over and you pick it up and you like.
And Starfighter usually once it hits the ground, it pops.
Oh, all right.
That's true. One thing I'll say about the anchors, and this is something that I really don't like, they are almost all once per day abilities. And like, I loathe things that I can only use once because I spend the entire game worried about whether or not like this is the time I want to use it.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I don't play prepared spellcasters, except for Carr. But Carr was a cheaty cleric who half of his abilities let him just throw away spells I didn't want for other things. So like I cheated with that one. But for the most part, like I wish that a lot of these abilities were like, you can use this once per day for free, and then every time thereafter you had to spend resolve or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be a little better.
Yeah, I just think that like when you say you could only stop a thing from aging once, that just doesn't look good. like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
Some of these are pretty cool. Yeah,
like has the ability to like let you recharge an item or a battery or technological item. So
that one's really good.
The greater anchor for that one is underwhelming. You make a home where you leave for 4 hours to go build a gun and come back with the gun as the people wait for 4 hours for you to come back.
But
it's stop time.
Yeah, but it's like a time warp. They don't know. They've been waiting.
It's basically time stop, but you go into an alternate reality, right?
No, it says time passes normally both within and outside the temporal shelter.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Why? Yes, why?
No, I would understand it if you were like, we need acid damage. You're like, hold on, let me make a disruptor pistol. I'll be right back. And everyone's like, we're in the middle of a fight. And you like walk out the door and it goes and closes and then and opens. And then you have to disrupt your pistol and you're just shooting at people.
But what James is saying is that it's not instantaneous. You're gone
No!
for 4 hours.
Yeah,
Why? That would have been so
ability.
cool.
This is a 15th level ability to leave for 4 hours at the speed of 4 hours. I guess if you're in a place that doesn't have the tools, it's cool. But once again, this is a 15th level ability.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, like at that point, you're a spell level higher than the creation spell.
I don't. Okay.
I know it's one of those things you have to read it, and then it's not cool. Although Fragment to Pass is amazing, it lets you just get up and it lets you fight better. Those stats is cool. 10 out of 10.
The gap anchor is really cool because people can't remember you, and it really makes me want to play like a badass assassin in a cat suit with double pistols, or as a Kasatha 4 pistols, or as a Skittermander 6 pistols. That's just like with sunglasses that pop out of your temples because that cyberware exists, and just no one knows who you are. They're like, I don't know. I think there was like a bear or something. Mm-hmm. Wasn't it a Skittermander? I don't know. I didn't see 6 arms. I saw 3.5 arms. I don't know how many it had.
Like I think for me, one of the things is like the flavor of a lot of the anchors doesn't match the abilities that they give, and then a lot of the abilities they give don't feel like they are part of they're part of a whole. They feel disparate. So like the dimension, like Doomed Future, is that you are from a future where everything has gone wrong and you're trying to stop that from happening. Super and cool. The improved anchor for that is awesome. You gain a free paradox, which we'll talk about paradoxes in a minute, but a free paradox of 20 that you can use on skill checks to recall knowledge, which is it makes sense. You know the future, what's going to happen. So once per day, you have a free natural 20 on any knowledge check. That's super cool. But then the focal paradox and the greater anchor are all fortitude save based. So like, why? Like, what does being fortuitous have to do with me knowing the future because I've lived it? Like, is it because I'm tougher? That doesn't make sense. Like to me, this ability should have been like the focal paradox should have been skill checks to recall knowledge or identify creatures. And the greater anchor should have been something like you gain more knowledge from, doing this, or you gain something.
You can still work the fortitude into flavor. I agree that it's probably not the most optimal choice to fit the flavor of what they're trying to go for. But you can also be like, hey, I'm going to use this poison against you. And you're like, I already took the antidote. When? Last time I went through all this. Like I've already been through this. We exposed you to this deadly disease. I've got the antibodies. Like I don't care.
And I don't hate that. That's fun. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I just don't think that matches the flavor that they're going for.
I think it's more just a balancing thing to give more variety to the saves that you fight.
I guess, but like another one of the paradoxes is you pick 2 skills and can use it on those. And there's a temporal anomaly that lets you just pick saving throws or like attack rolls or whatever you want to apply this to. So like if I wanted to be the good at poison and have already taken the antidote, I could take the ability for that. I would have preferred to see these to be more flavorful and to be a bit more tight in how they were designed. But that's not to say that they're bad. Like mechanically, they're fine. I just don't think that they have a very strong theming to them, except for the initial pitch. The pitches are all amazing.
The pitches are good.
Yes, I want to be from a doomed future. Yes, I want to be touched by the dimension of time. Yes, I want my soul fragmented. I want all of these things. It's great. I just wish the mechanics lined up a little bit better. That's my thought on anchors.
I do just want to bring attention to Chronomancy, which has one of the, I think, most undervalued abilities, which you do need help to pull off. And one of the abilities. So the focal paradox for Chronomancy, when you get it, is at caster level checks.
Yeah.
That's something you already have.
Well, but if you use it for a caster level check, you get another paradox immediately.
Yeah, I guess, but it's not giving you anything new.
Yes, it is. It's a way to, it's kind of nice because you can cycle through like mediocre paradox numbers. So paradox, just to remind everyone, is the ability where you roll a bunch of d20s and you save those numbers and then you get to insert them later under certain circumstances, right? So let's say you roll a 20. If you have the ability to replace it for an attack roll, that's perfect. You're like, okay, I'm gonna crit something one time today and I'll just pick it and I'll be like, you crit. If you have, and there's abilities like where if you have a 1 or a 2, you can sub them out and do some other things. But if you have some mediocre stuff, like let's say someone's like, okay, make a caster level check. And you're like, really, this is kind of easy. You know what? I'm going to use my 7. I'm pretty good. I'm sure that's going to be good enough. I'm going to use my 7. And that way you can get rid of it and re-roll it and get a new number and maybe get a high one that you can use for something important. So it's not bad. It's not bad to have it as that.
But the good part about it is the greater anchor that lets you cast 2 spells in a round. It does make you sacrifice your standard action next turn, but if you have an envoy in your party, that's not a problem.
Nope, they could just give you another one.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me to hurry. I slowed myself. All right, hurry. Awesome.
Yeah. So it's just a way to bang out a DPS race.
So good. It's great. But let's move off of Anchor and let's talk about the core mechanic of this class, which is Paradox. Paradox essentially is the same as it was in the playtest. You get a number of d20s. It's 1 plus half your dex modifier, and you roll them all at the start of the day after you regain your spell slots, and you record the numbers you get. If you're someone who likes tokens, you could roll the dice and then just leave those dice there showing those numbers. And a lot of different abilities that you gain let you spend those dice to do things. One of the things that's very interesting about the precog is that all of the anchors have a focal paradox, which is like the one thing you can use the precogs on at first level initiatively. And as you level up, you eventually get to the point where every single focal anchor is just something every precog can do. By level 5, every precog can do ability checks, caster level checks, initiative checks, all saving throws, and skill checks, which is literally everything all the anchors have. So like by level 5, all of them, like that the only thing that it matters for is gaining that free one every day, and then also using the reroll as an immediate action once per day. So sure. It's a very interesting mechanic. When Thurston originally came on, he told us that one of the reasons the precog is the only Starfinder class that doesn't have a insight bonus to skills is that insight bonus is supposed to be made up for by the fact that you could just always choose to roll high. I think that's a very interesting design choice. What do you two think?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have that than just a standard bonus, because if you really want that inside bonus, there's always like skill focus.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's also their powers that they can take as well that can do that for you.
Yeah.
It as I was looking through this, it did just make me think of an operative where you just have the ability to just pull out the number you need for the skill checks that progress very highly.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is very similar to how operatives can just take 10 on pretty much whatever they want, and their bonuses are so big that nothing can stop them, which is great. And this is kind of like, it's a very simple ability. But it's also, it gets branched and iterated upon by pretty much the entire rest of the class. It's very interesting. There are not many spellcaster classes in Starfinder that have a mechanic like this that gets iterated on and improved by different abilities. Like the closest one is probably the Witch Warper, and like I think it's very debatable upon whether or not you would consider Infinite Worlds as being a thing that like paradigm shifts and other abilities really improve on. It kind of just gets better the stronger the resource you throw at it.
Yeah, although making it into cubes was very good for locking a bear in an elevator.
Oh my gosh, no, it was great. That bear did not want to be in that elevator either.
Also, that saved us.
Also, like, I did not realize your character was a Witch Warper until that point at the end of book 2 of Signal of Screams, and like I like started screaming. It was really funny. Well, because the entire time I thought that James was playing a Fenric adept soldier because he was, and then he died, and I was dumb and didn't realize he died and remade the same character but as a Witch Warper.
No, they made a different character who was playing as the other character who was a Witch Warper.
Right, but the problem is that none of us ever figured out that you were a different person. None of us knew
none
you
of
were
you had the checks. None of you could make the checks. I was great.
I know, you were amazing. We were dumb.
This is the 7th time I've heard that story, and it's still amazing.
I know. It's because it's like a fine wine. It gets better with age.
So just like a lot of the classes, this has the ability to get what they call temporal anomalies. These are like your, pick an ability every few levels off of a menu. And then it opens up every several levels. And there's some really good stuff in here. What's some of the stuff that you were just like, yes, that is the one I want?
Well, We're talking about the paradigm, the temporal anchors specifically, like
temporal
the
anomalies. Yes.
Anomalies, yeah. So one of the common themes in this class is that there's an anomaly at pretty much every level that turns you into essentially a soldier. There's like one that's like, hey, you want another weapon proficiency? Take it. And it just slides it very like shadily towards you across the table. And they're like, oh, you think you'd be better with a couple more hit points and stamina points per level? All right. Hey, I hear that you really want full BAB. You got it. 14th level ability, 4 base attack bonus. You could be a Junkomancer with this class, James, who is better than a Technomancer, because unlike a Technomancer, you have full BAB with your Junk Sword.
I know. I was looking at that, and then you can also take things like Temporal Flash that allow you to as a reaction, like teleport and move. There's so many like teleporting moving abilities.
That's cool. I do like those.
You just end up as just a absolute menace to people.
I think one of the abilities that is super strong but will never really get the recognition that it deserves is probably Instance Analysis. As a move action, you pick a target and then you choose a category of knowledge, and then you just gain the knowledge that you want as if you had passed like a recall knowledge check. There's no rolling. You just look at that person and you say, I know this thing. And sure, you use it. You can't use it again until you spend a resolve point, rest for 10 minutes, or gain stamina points, whatever.
Sure.
Like, doesn't matter. You pick one person and you're like, I need to know why this keeps happening. Tell me the answer, GM. And the GM is just like, all right, I guess I have to give it to you.
That's pretty cool. Again, see, for me, from a GM perspective, that's super useful too, because it's like, yes, good. I want you to tell you the things so you can figure this out and move on.
Yes.
Because exactly. In general, you're going to be dumb in Starfinder because you're probably just going to be about the soldiers that have no skill points. So it helps.
You're not right.
Wow.
Except for the one operative who's just God mode at every skill.
I say wow, but then I'm the person who makes a punch girl out of everything.
That's fine. Everyone's got a type.
Yeah, I have an operative that has like an 8 intelligence. I don't pass any skill checks.
It's so funny, and everyone gets so mad because they're like, "You're an operative," and by everybody I mean me. It's just me getting mad.
Too bad. I'm the frontliner.
You are such a good frontliner, though. There's a lot of really cool temporal anomalies that use your paradox dice in very interesting ways. A very common theme is that you typically want to pick an option or two that lets you throw away bad rolls so that you don't have to substitute them, right? Because I don't want, if I roll a 5 on one of my paradoxes, I don't want to put that in for anything because I'm going to fail with a 5.
5 is terrible.
Yeah, but I might want to sub it in for the safeguard temporal anomaly, which is, as a reaction, you can spend a paradox to reduce the amount of damage you take by an effect equal to the result of the paradox up to a maximum based on your level. It starts at 5, then it goes to 10, and then 15, and then finally 20. So, like, if I have a 5, it's like, yeah, I might never want to replace a die with this, but I sure wouldn't mind taking 5 fewer damage. Sure. Goodbye, paradox, 5 less damage. Awesome. Like, you've spent nothing. I think another one, the names on these abilities are really great. One of my favorite ones is
I've been staring.
Say that.
That's the one I was just looking at. It's so good.
Tell us about it.
So if you're aiding your ally on like bluff, diplomacy, or intimidate, so you're talking to someone and you're like, I'm gonna mention a couple things, I'll say a couple things, I'm gonna aid. You can use one of your paradox in place of your ally's D20 roll, which is just so good. You don't even have to be good at these skills. You just be like, I think I remember this conversation, and the thing that worked last time was promising he gets to keep the bees. And so at some point you're like, you know what? It's fine. When we're done, you can just keep the bees. And then you're like, so that rolls a 17. What? Yeah, I'm eating and that rolls a 17. And the guy's like, I didn't mention bees, but yeah, that's what I wanted. So cool. Thanks. I'll agree to your terms. And the person you're helping is like, how did you know about what's going on? It's just hilarious. I don't know. I like the names of the abilities too. It's just, that makes me so happy when you have ability names that are so hilarious. They make you want to use them.
Yes.
Especially if they're things that you want to say at the table. Because I want to say, I knew you'd say that. And then you hand them the 17.
Ephemeral Confidant is really cool because it emulates the like expert that you could buy in society by giving you insight bonuses. It goes up to plus 12 insight bonus at 15th level.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so it really makes up for how dumb you are.
Yes. Another one that I really like that I think is probably going to be underloved, even though I love it, is let's be real. This one is going to be absolutely adored, and James is going to take it on his junk blade monstrosity.
Oh gosh.
Preternatural Strikes. You
Yep.
spend a paradox, any paradox you want, and then it basically gives you the dimensional dervish feat from Pathfinder First Edition.
Yep.
You can teleport up to 30 feet between your first and second attacks during a full attack, and it doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. You just bloop, bloop.
Yeah, it's great.
It's good. Yeah, that one I definitely saw. Anything that lets you teleport. Everyone knows I love Punch Girls, but not a lot of people know I love anything that teleports. Teleport-based classes are just so much fun to just poof all over the place, and I would 100% take that. In fact, I would probably use most of my mediocre and all of my bad paradoxes just to poof around the battlefield.
That's right. That's what you do. You throw them all. You throw the bad ones away, and you use them to teleport. Mm-hmm. That is the responsible decision. I don't make the rules. I just reinforce them.
I really do like momentary stutter, and I think there's going to be some table variance on exactly how much this does. Mm-hmm. It allows you to rewind just enough time to reverse your position without affecting other outcomes. At the start of the turn, you use a paradox to mark your location, activate the ability. At the end of the turn, you can immediately teleport to your starting location. I think the idea behind that is you can go into some place, try it out, and if it doesn't work, you come back to the start, and it's almost like you rewound in time, and those events don't happen. But I don't think that's how it's written. I think it's written that you just walk in there and go, I don't want to be in there now. Oh, I went into the nest of bees, and there's a lot of bees in there. Ow, I have a couple of them in my mouth. I'm back here.
Well, the other thing that is really cool about it is, minor spoiler for Dead Sons, there's a point where you are basically up against the latest trap from Resident Evil. And like with this ability, you could actually like go through to the other side, and then it's Tracer's ability from Overwatch, where you just go back to where you were.
Mm-hmm. Or Yo-Yo from the Shield television series.
Yeah, but so like you could theoretically go someplace where you need to be on one side of a bad thing, and then just go boom, and then go back to where you started, because like you're like, all right, I want to make sure that nothing keeps me in this room. No force of God will stop me from returning to this point.
So there's a trap that'll activate after I go in there, and there's a thing we need on the other side. Cool. So I'm going to move in there. I'm going to pick up the thing, and then I'm going to snap back to where I started, and the trap goes off, but I'm not even in there.
My problem with that ability is that there is actually a spell that does the same thing in Galactic Magic.
But is it a 3 on your precog roll?
Right.
No, I guess not.
That's the thing. It's just momentary stutter is free. It's just a paradox. It's like, all right, here you go. I don't need that one.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we've talked a lot about temporal anomalies. Let's talk about some of the other abilities that the class has, because this class does actually, we stopped pretty early on. There's like a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, I got distracted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, at third level, you get weapon specialization.
Well, also at third level, you gain Chronomatic Defense, which is when someone attacks you before the result of the attack is known, you can spend a paradox to grant an ally a bonus to AC based on the paradox result you rolled. It has a maximum. It caps out at 5 at 18th level, but it's generally a free ability that you can use to spend low paradoxes on and get tasty benefits. Like you could do it whenever anybody declares an attack. So like your friends are getting hit and you go, my friend, I'm going to give you this bonus. I'm going to tell you the future. And then poof. I actually always forget to use this ability on Hako, my Teenage Wasteland NPC. It's not my fault. The last game that we played had 8 player characters, 8 player allies, and then me running 4 consecutive CR12 encounters at the same time. It was hard, but fun.
Yeah, this is another really good one for those low, what? I was going to say that this is another great ability for those low rolls on a d20, because the insight bonus is equal to your paradox result. What? Yes. Which is just also kind of insane, because I can imagine that time where the big giant scary monster comes out of the alien cave and is going to eat your friend, the soldier, who's pretty tough, but it's a big scary monster. So you're like, you know what? Have 17 bonus to your armor class. That big hit it's going to do is just it's just not going to land. It's just not going to do it.
Definitely. All right. Did we talk about temporal aggression? Was that temporal aggression?
What?
No, that was Chromatic Defense. Chronomatic Defense.
Oh my gosh, my brain keeps popping in and out of time. It's really bad. It's like a temporal aggression against my brain. So that's like the next ability that appears immediately after meme specialization. Then you have temporal aggression, which is chromatic defense, but you replace your damage roll with the result of your paradox up to the maximum size of the damage. So like if you roll a d10, you can replace up to a 10. So like if you spend an 11, it's still just a 10. But it does mean that like if you roll really bad for damage, you can just be like, okay. And the thing is, it only works on like a specific die at a time. So like it's always valid, if that makes sense. So I'm very excited.
It's not a bad way to dump low rolls, but I would probably rather use it for AC. Like the points in AC are more valuable points. Like let's just say 3, right? That's a really low number. A 3 points in AC boost is more valuable than 3 in damage. And even if you're looking at a D10 damage and you're like, well, I have a 10, I can do max damage on one hit. I'd rather have 10 defense points against some big hit, scary attack.
Chronomatic Defense has caps on defense.
Yeah, it goes up to a maximum of
like 5.
Maximum
of 2. Oh, I thought it was the minimum like the other one. Well, that's different. All right, so you're going to use your super bad rolls for that. I misread that.
Yeah, that's fine. But I think that it's good that this class has some things that you want to use really low numbers on, like for chromatic defense.
I mean, I thought it was ridiculously good, but I also thought it was ridiculously good for defense, which is usually the point in the game that you can break it and not destroy everything.
That's true. It's very true, but I think it's overall just it's cool. Like I like it. Like I said, I like that you generally want to throw numbers 5 or lower at chromatic defense, and you want to throw things that are usually about like 6 to 10 at temporal aggression, and anything much higher you probably want to put on like big boy and big girl abilities.
Yeah, temporal aggression's big for bursting a target that you're having a hard time hitting, like a ghost or something. Yeah.
Get that ghost. Now, sometimes you might say, oh man, paradoxes are the core mechanic of this class, but I don't feel like I get enough. I'd really give my life for another paradox. And then paradoxal acceleration is like, your life, you say? And that's the ability that lets you spend 3 resolve points for 1 paradox. It's actually very interesting because at the level you get that, 3 resolve points just happens to be enough resolve points to stabilize you if you were dying.
Oh, jeez.
As you level up, the number of resolve points you need will go up, and so that ability will be comparatively less than that, but it's still a very expensive ability.
Good.
Yes. It is a good ability, very fun. And then at 12th level, you get Chromatic Flow, which is a swift action to increase the save DC on a spell you cast during your turn equal to the paradox result or a maximum of 1, then 2 at 16th level and 3 at 19th level.
Wow, so that's great for your terrible roll.
if you roll a nat 1 on a paradox roll, guess where it's going? Chromatic Flow. But it's like, you can make fun of that, but like at 19th level, you're making a spell saving throw DC as good as it was in Pathfinder First Edition. Like they're basically turning a 6th level spell into a 9th level spell. Like that's a strong ability. It's just really funny.
Yeah, it's just looking at the numbers, it just like looks a little whack, but mathematically it works.
Yes.
That's fine. But you know what? It's actually occurred to me. So between Chromatic Defense, which you want like low numbers, but not necessarily basement numbers, Chromatic Flow, which you want your absolute lowest numbers, and Temporal Aggression, which is good for like medium low numbers. There's actually a pretty good spread of uses of these paradoxes naturally without having to use one of your very precious temporal anomalies, picking an ability just so you can dump low numbers. Like the options are there. So I'm pretty actually happy with how that works itself out. And of course, you'll always find uses for those medium and high rolls.
Yes. Now, the capstone for this class.
Oh gosh.
The craziest ability, honestly, in the whole class. You no longer age. You no longer die of old age.
Cool.
Once per week, you can change up to 2 character levels worth of decisions as if you had used a mnemonic editor on yourself. Once per month, you can do 10 levels of changes. And once per year, you can do 20 levels of changes. Wow. The only rule is you can never get rid of, you always have to be a precog. You can't choose to get rid of any of your precog levels. But you can basically completely rebuild every decision you've ever had once per year if you want to. You also get rewrite time as a spell-like ability. But I think the ability to... I mean, like, rewrite time is great. Don't get me wrong, but like, it's wish, it's miracle, it's ultra reality. Like, it's not new or unique, but like
no, but
this
it's
ability,
still cool as a spell like ability. Even once per week, there's that one time that you're playing, and you're like, oh, geez, you know what? We're rewriting time. It didn't happen that way. It happened this other way, and that's just I can't deal with this.
I will admit that Miracle is the reason that Teenage Wasteland will have to have no more downtime after Dustin's character hits level 20, because he's just going to wait every week and cast Miracle every week as a spam button. I know Dustin, he's gonna do it. And he's gonna type in the chat, "Oh, you're so right," as soon as I do. I'm using my precog abilities. I've seen the future. He's in chat. He's gonna write that I'm correct. And if he doesn't, it's because I've accidentally changed time. He says for a sandwich. There you go. All right.
For a sandwich. So, wait,
yeah.
I'm gonna rewrite time. I chose an olive loaf sandwich, and that was a mistake. Give me tuna on rye.
Yeah.
No, tuna on rye is good. No, tuna melt. Ooh, hot tuna. There you go.
Okay, that's actually gross. I love tuna. Tuna melt is disgusting. Why would you do that? Just have a tuna steak. Oh my god.
Now,
I left this cat food in my truck and it's summer.
we broke V. She's laughing so hard she's never going to be able to edit another podcast again. I'm so sorry, V. We've destroyed you.
Yeah, that was good.
So
I picked the worst sandwich I could think of for replacements.
I like all of them. All of them was great. The things after that they got progressively worse. I was waiting for liverwurst and onions.
So what you're telling me is that she kept rewriting reality and making it worse every single time.
And you know what? If I did that, eventually I would come up with a bad enough sandwich that we could create a new character for the next campaign that had doomed future. I hate the tuna. What happened? I ate the sandwich.
Our live viewers are now like really concerned that they are broken. It's really funny, actually. Numbat 18 says inhale, exhale, slowly alternating, Vanessa.
Okay.
Dustin is trying to say things about sandwiches to make you laugh more.
Sorry, I haven't thought about liverwurst sandwiches in like a decade. That's a throwback.
Oh man. I mean, you're not missing out. You're fine. So now that I am apparently the person who is the not comedy person, let's continue. I think that one thing that's really fun to talk about the precog is it's iconic. It's iconic is Pathfinder and Starfinder's first wheelchair user, which is really cool. There's an awesome short story of them on Paizo.com. They have a very cool hover chair. The backstory is very neat. It's very like wild. Like it makes me think of like a like a Time Lord, like out of body story, because like it jumps between different parts. It's very cool. It's very interesting. And I think with that's sort of like a wrap on the core of this class. So now we're at the part where we talk about our builds, how we would build this character. James, I feel like you've been waiting the entire show to tell us about your junk cog.
Yeah, you just jug sword, you take full bab, and you attack a lot, and you're wherever you need to be, and you just slam fools.
Looking to see what you would have to. It is way too easy. I'm looking up to see what you would have to give up to become the junk cog.
Also, you take shunt condition because it allows you to delay the onset of a condition for you or your allies as a reaction.
That's very good. So let's see. Junk Master is initial spell. Let's see. Only character as a spell as a creature can take this archetype. You just get bonus spells.
Reading makes great radio.
I'm not really sure because like it says an additional first level spell and you gain an additional spell slot. Then it says you gain more as you level up. And then for each of these extra spells known, they must be one whose targets entry list at least one bulk of electronic material. But like the class says only characters who have the spells class feature, such as Mystic and Technomancers, can take the archetype, but the archetype actually doesn't specify whether you can take junk spells, even if they aren't normally on your class list. I feel like you should be able to, because otherwise that fourth level ability literally doesn't work for Mystics who are listed as a specific class that can take it. But regardless, Yeah, you could do it. Like you could just
I
learn
would let you
jumps.
do it if I was GMing, just to see what shenanigans you could come up with, and just like cry every time you're like, I summon junk, I turn it into a sword, I destroy everything, and I'm like,
Junk.
all right.
Oh, thank you, Vanessa.
But I would also
Well,
put you on the super high society adventure path, where summoning swarms of junk to smash them together into a sword is very uncool.
that's fine.
Oh, no, I can make it work. I can make it work.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I think what's fun about the junk spells is that junk sword is the only one that is a variable level spell. So it works like the healer connection. You take junk sword at first level, and then at second level, you take junk sword and replace the first junk sword with junk armor. And then at third level, you take the new junk sword and replace the old thing with village and junk bot, and you just keep going. like, and honestly, once you have junk sword and junk armor, you can stop. None of the other junk spells matter because you just want to be a junk battle machine, right? Am I right?
Yeah, and also you get raised dead, so you can bring up the rest of your party that you let die because you were off just slapping the biggest thing you could find.
Wow.
Just redo reality. It's good. How about you, V? What would your precog look like?
Oh my gosh. So I surprisingly did not make a punch girl because I didn't see the build. So I'm going to have you tell me what the build is, but first I'll share my general concept. I thought it would be really fun to do either Doomed Future or The Gap, depending on like the flavor of the campaign. Although I'm really leaning toward Doomed Future for all of the like Bishop in the old X-Men cartoon, sort of like, I remember something bad about this. I just can't remember the specifics. And then like it plays out and you're like, yes. So like, even if you've never heard of this plot point before and the GM reveals everything to the table, you're like, yes, that's right. I remember now. It's like, what? So that's cool. I get spoiled on a lot of things, so it would be fun to be spoiled on something and purposefully insist as the character that it's a different thing. And then when it's like didn't turn out to be the way that my character said it was, it's like, well, we must have changed the future.
Absolutely.
Because I specifically remember it being this other way. So that would be fun. I would probably make like as I was saying before, like a multi-pistol wielding character who's just like running around, like doing sideways dives and shooting in midair in slow motion and stuff. That is totally the type of character I would make.
Like the marionettes in Elden Ring, just a bunch of arms, a bunch of bows, a bunch of pistols, bang bang.
I don't know what those are, but sure. Yeah, I would just, I don't know, you like with the sunglasses, you gotta have the sunglasses. That's who I would make. And if I had the Gap one, then I would just flavor it as like, I'm obviously an intergalactical assassin hired for this job, and no one ever knows who I am because my identity just keeps getting erased because I'm like connected to the Gap somehow.
That is a good point.
I think actually really cool.
I think the Gap for me is probably my favorite of the anchors, if only because like it has strong theming and that it's directly tied to the setting, and it's got some just awesome anchors. Like the improved anchor is the ability to just fool scrying. Like you just be you can't see me. I erase all memory of my presence from your dumb scrying thing. And then like the greater version is they just forget that you were in a place. You literally add your the memory of you being in a place to the Gap, and they just can't remember you. It's really funny. I think it's hilarious personally.
That's awesome.
I think my favorite thing to do with these abilities, I would want to pick a lot of, like, I think Shunt Condition is really cool. It reminds me of the ability in first edition that the Spiritualist has to just throw conditions at their Phantom and tell them to suck it. I also really like Spell Rewind. I love the idea that, like, I try to Death's Door somebody. I'm like, nah, I'm going to get rid of a Paradox. I don't lose that spell slot. I'm better than this.
I like that one, but that one's also not unique to the precog, so I didn't choose
that's
it, but
fair.
it was good.
That's fair. And also you don't need that because the only spell you'll be casting is Junk Sword. Why would you? No one's going to fail a saving throw against Junk Sword.
What? I need teleport spells and raise deads for my party.
That's fair. And then I think that the other thing that I would really want to build for is I'm really tempted to say that I would want to go for all of the abilities that turn you into Time Soldier, but I kind of like don't think you really need the hit points one, and you just pick the weapon that you want at first level. So like the base attack bonus is the one I would really want. Just be like, all right, what's the
base attack bonus one called?
That is called Times Champion. Your base attack bonus is equal to your precog level.
Oh, yeah, no, that's very cool.
But you need Time Hardened Anomaly, which is the hit point one that I would skip. All right, I guess I can't skip it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, that's a 14th level ability. So here's the problem I always have with those. It's a 14th level ability. So like you've been suffering on your base attack bonus this whole time and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And finally at 14th level, you're like, oh, okay, now I can shoot things.
I mean, it's 3/4, Bab. I mean, it's not like half.
I know. You would still basically need weapon focus to help make up for a bunch of that and just be like living on weapon focus until you hit 14th level.
You would definitely need weapon focus, and you would also like 100% need to be specializing in energy weapons because EAC is typically lower than KAC. It's never higher. So you usually
it's sometimes higher. It is very rarely higher when people want to pull a gotcha and they're like, it's a living quartz monster. It reflects energy. It's funny.
You're reflexive.
I mean, so, just get good.
That's true. You could just get good. So now there's one thing I will say about this class. I feel like we've provided a very balanced take where we've said a lot of things we've liked, and we've said a lot of things that we find strange, and we've said a lot of things that we maybe don't like so much. I have one thing that I want to add that I really don't like about this class, and it has nothing to do with this class. And you're going to think that it's crazy, but then I'm going to explain it and you won't think it's crazy.
Sure.
So once upon a time, there was a company called Paizo Publishing, and they put out a book called The Pathfinder.
Who's Paizo?
Yeah, it's in the gap. You'll look it up later.
Okay.
Must have
been a different timeline.
There was a small indie company named Paizo Publishing, and they put out a book called The Pathfinder Role-Playing a Game First Edition Advanced Player's Guide. And that book added 6 brand new classes to Starfinder. And
oh my gosh, I just realized in my timeline, it was called To Play Incorporated, and they made Pathfinder. Oh, that's funny.
That's funny. They made Roadfinder, Road Seeker. So they made this book, and like the one bit of feedback they got, because that was the book that originally created the concept of archetypes, right? And at the time, if you were a class that had archetypes, you were like the bee's knees, super cool, lots of customization, lots of options, everybody loved you. But none of the new classes had archetypes. So like a lot of people were like, these classes feel like they're starting behind the line compared to all the other classes. So like Paizo got that feedback from the Advanced Player's Guide, and starting in Ultimate Magic, when they released the Magus, they started releasing a class spread with every new class that they published. That continued throughout the entirety of first edition Pathfinder, all the way until Ultimate Wilderness and the class that won't be named. That class that won't be named actually did get content in its archetype sections for brand new archetypes. And I feel like Starfinder never learned that lesson, because every single book that we've gotten, to me, feels like we've only gotten the player options, like the temporal anomalies, the theorems, the disciplines that were in the playtest. For the most part, there isn't really anything new being added from playtest to print. It's just kind of like being refined, and that's not something you see in Pathfinder Second Edition either. Like in Second Edition, they expand, they add. This is a sampling. We're going to put more. So it's kind of like there's less to look forward to when this book comes out. I think that this class really could use more than it got. Like I think the spellcaster classes really hurt for those types of like selectable options, especially compared to the marshals, because they kind of have feats, and like Galactic Magic, as awesome as it was, didn't write any feats for spellcasters, and the only ones that existed already were spell focus and spell penetration. So like I think it's hard to get excited about a spellcasting class because they do feel very undersupported, even post Galactic Magic. So that would be like my one big bit of feedback. This class needs more content. Like it like
you always say that though. I will, like, that said, you always say this needs more content. You think everything needs more content.
Yes, I do. I think Eric Mona should bite the bullet and double the size of Starfinder books. 100%. Do it. Listen, they're like 120 pages or however small they are, and like, you know, meanwhile, like Pathfinder's sitting here feasting on like these massive chunky omens books that are like bi-monthly now. It's like, come on, load it up. I'm sure somewhere Jenny J and John Compton are like sweating in anger. Alex, how dare you say this? No. I'm positive of it, but that's okay. I'm allowed to have.
They need twice as much work to do.
listen, it's okay. You know, I'm sure they'll I don't know. It's fine. It's okay. We'll make it work. Make the book bigger.
Make the book bigger. Well, I think it's
more,
okay. I also understand, like you were talking about more options, and I think if they did have space for more options, then they could have made the anchors more tight, like you were saying, mechanically speaking, because then you wouldn't have to like field so many things. Like my assassin character has nothing to do with the gap specifically, but I would pick the gap for the cool, hey, you can kind of not remember them or record them sort of powers. Like I think that would be cool for that character, but it doesn't fit the gap. But because there are more open in concept, you can take some of the flavor and I'm just gonna ignore the flavor stuff and just use the mechanics a little easier this way. So it's kind of like their own trap of like, if you had more anchors, you could have been more specific. But then we would have lost some other cool stuff in the book. And there's limits.
Yeah, give and take.
Give and take. But, overall it's a cool class. One thing I find interesting, and I think this is really telling, is it is a full caster class as Starfinder sees it, right? Full 6 levels worth of spells, 3/4 BAB, everything all the other casters get. However, most of us see this, even James, who wants to go junk sword as badly as possible, see this as, how do we turn this into a martial class? And I think that speaks a lot to the flavor of the class, and so how the spellcasting aspect of it is presented. And I kind of wish it had a really strong through line for spellcasting, and I'm sure it's in there if we found it, but it doesn't jump out at us as like, this is a spellcasting class. It's like, here's a spellcasting chassis that you can turn into a martial class. I think it needs more direct, this is a powerful spellcasty character, for us to play that sort of character that's like, look, I'm not going to be running around with a pistol. Yeah, Dex is my main thing. I don't care. I'm literally just want to like outthink you because I've been to the future and I know how this works. And I want to see that character that can beat every single chess match because they already know what your next move is. And I don't think it has it yet. Sorry. That's fine. I was just saying, I don't think this class has that yet.
I think that if the Technomancer is Starfinder's wizard, which it pretty much isn't, but like if that's its wizard, right, and the mystic is its cleric, and the witch warper is kind of like its witch in that like the Technomancer is much more blasty and like messes with things, and the mystic is much more about like the mind stuff and like healing, and then the witch warper is like debuff and control, which loosely fits those themes. The precog is the bard, like
yep,
because
it is the glue.
Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of weird little abilities that kind of like put together into what you want to make of it. It's got like a strange mixing of buffs and debuffs and like
but support. Like the envoy's the bard.
They can both be bards.
Well, the envoy is the bard in the aspect that the envoy buffs, but like the precog is the only spellcaster in the game that heals stamina points, which the envoy does reliably. Like,
okay, all right.
Like if the precog is like the actual buffing, like it's the Inspire Courage bard, this is just kind of like the bard in like magic theme. Like it's just a whole bunch of little pieces you cobble together, and it's not really a master at any one thing, because like the spell list heals stamina, sure, but like it's also got explosive blast, and it's got like just a bunch of like random little niche spells. And like it doesn't really have the bard's ability to be like illusions or anything. Like it's not a perfect bard, but for the idea of the bard being the jack of all trades, this feels like the jack of all trades spellcaster to me.
Yeah, I was thinking, because I don't see the flavor there, I think if I got an opportunity to play a precog, that is the direction I would go. I would see how deep into the magic I could go and try and like, I've got some decks, it's important, key ability, whatever. But I would probably try and max out like my intelligence, so my spells are really potent, and that I get a ton of different skills. And I'm like, okay, let's do this, and then like enough decks because you need it for the paradoxes and stuff. But I think I would lean more into the spellcasting aspect and see if I could make that work. Like that would be my experiment with the character, to see if I was feeling satisfied as a full spellcastery focused character with my choices. So.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Doing it because you have a lot of stuff to do with reactions as well that do buffs. I mean, the thing that restores stamina is actually not even touch. Like it is range. So I think you get a fair amount of mileage out of that. Also, my head is broken, so that's the reason why I want to make everything a melee character.
Well, no, I understand. I understand.
No, listen, you want a hammer down. I got it. It's fine. So you do. But you know what? Actually, looking at the time, I at the start of this episode, James and I were a little worried that we wouldn't have much to say about the
No,
precog.
we have so much to say.
But we had so much to say about the precog that we're actually a little bit over time. So I'd like to take a moment to thank you for joining us here at the Starfinder Beyond. Oh my gosh, No Direction Beyond. There we go. I swear I know the name of this show.
You're good at this.
I took the name from the past when I did the awesome opening, and now it's just gone.
I do have a quick shout out.
Yeah,
a personal thing I would like to.
Please, you go first.
Okay, I didn't want you to like end the show. Sometimes you're like, and we're out, and I'm like, but there's a thing. All right, so I'm going to shout out that I'm going to be on Beetle and Grimm's Twitch stream this Friday, 2 nights from tonight. At 6 p.m. Pacific, that is 9 p.m. Eastern, same time as the show starts, although it will probably be significantly longer. We are going to be playing from the Absalom Gold Edition the Beetle and Grimm's is putting out.
Ooh.
They have a bunch of cool stuff, including some little adventures. And so I'm going to be playing on that with a character I am not allowed to talk about yet, but I'm super excited. And I have, let's just say I've purchased makeup so that I can like cosplay this character on stream. Okay. I purchased special makeup. So anyway, you should come and see it. That's on Beetle and Grimm's stream. It's twitch.tv/Beetle and Grimm's with 2 M's.
Nice. Do you have any shout outs you want to make, James?
No.
Cool. I'm going to shout out. I actually just finished after a year of development and writing and everything possible going wrong. I finally finished Starfarer's Species Reforged with the help of many talented freelancers, editors, consultants. That's going to be available for purchase at DriveThruRPG on March 30th, 2022. I'm very excited to get that out to people because it basically takes a rule set that is very similar but more player friendly than the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Ancestry and Heritage system, and gives it to you for your Starfinder game. So if you've ever wanted to play a brawn brain contemplative, you can do it. It's really funny. There's art for it. He's a big buff brain. Really fun. And I think it's good to point out, James, you said you didn't have any shout outs, but you just shouted out in Discord about the most important shout out of all.
Oh yeah, No Direction, our Discord server.
That's right. We have a Discord server. You should totally come and hang out with us. We are the chillest, most calm and user-friendly and non-toxic place to talk about Pathfinder and Starfinder on the internet. You can always hang out with us, and we are all very active to different levels in different places. You'll see me a lot in Starfinder. V hangs around in Pathfinder all the time, and James, anime memes all day.
There are an overwhelmingly large number of channels to talk about specifically the thing that you want to talk about. But to me, that makes me hide. So if you want to talk to me, I am easily summoned by doing @ and then choosing my username, which is generally just Vanessa or Ninja Vanessa. And then I will show up very momentarily to discuss whatever it was you wanted to talk about. So definitely @ me on those servers.
Definitely cool. And I guess, are we doing our patrons private sanctum tonight, V?
Yeah, it's No Direction Beyonderer.
Beyonderer, that's right. We are Beyonderer.
Yeah.
V and I like to hang out with people who want to hang out with us and talk about the episode or just kind of tell about our lives and ramble for a bit. So
whatever it is that you want to talk about, that's your opportunity. If you are a patron, you can do so through our Discord and just join the channel. If you are a new patron and you're like, hey, I didn't know about this, you only have to link your patron account with Discord and you'll automatically be added to the group and you'll see us in there chatting. So come on, join. You can even talk to us with your real life voice if that's something you want to do. It is basically a hangout sesh, and it's going to be for about 30 minutes at the end of the show.
That's right. So V and I need to go Beyonderer. So until next time, Beyonderer. So until next time, go Beyonderer with No Direction.